Welcome back to Movie Recapper. Today I can show you prehistorical journey film from 2018, titled Alpha. Spoilers beforehand. Be careful and take care. 20,000 years in the past in prehistoric Europe, a small group of hunters led by using their leader Tao gets geared up to assault a herd of steppe bison. They devise a wall of spears that causes the bison to stampede off a cliff, but 3 of them stay back, and one specific bull is going after Tao's son Keda. After savagely hitting him with its horns, it drags him to the brink of the cliff, wherein Keda falls to the abyss after Tao hits the beast with his spear. This all starts off evolved 1 week earlier, whilst the teenagers of the tribe are tested on their spear-making competencies. The simplest ones to skip are Keda and his friend Kappa, so they'll be introduced to the ultimate searching excursion before iciness comes. Later, even as pretending to be asleep, Keda overhears Tao and his mom Ro speak. Ro does not think he is prepared to hunt because he leads with his coronary heart, now not his spear. However, Tao believes Keda have to do his element and show himself to the tribe. The following morning, the searching birthday party leaves after announcing goodbye to their loved ones and getting the shaman's blessing. Ro even gives Keda a further piece of fur as a safety token. The celebration starts traveling across the land by following the sacred route left by means of their ancestors, who've made a chain of rock sculptures that leave a trail for them to follow. The hand paintings on them point at the path they have to take to the hunting ground. At some stage in the ride, they come upon every other hunting party led by using Zai, an antique friend of Tao's who has these days lost his son. Both parties start journeying collectively then. Each time he has the hazard, Keda attempts to show himself to his father, however he isn't always capable of start a fireplace and can't convey himself to kill the boar the opposite guys capture, so he feels like a failure. One night time, at the same time as they're ingesting through the hearth, they listen a noise in the back of them, in order that they hastily bounce onto a defensive position. While nothing comes, they fast relax, which proves to be a mistake. A cave lion unexpectedly jumps out and snatches Kappa, who it takes away to feed on. The following morning, the men build a cairn to provide Kappa a memorial carrier that symbolizes the passing of one's spirit to the afterlife. The trip continues with best stops to hunt and relaxation. One night, after they find a big and safe cave to sleep in, Tao takes the threat to make Keda get a tattoo of the constellations simply like him. That manner he's going to continually find a way home. It takes an awesome quantity of days, however sooner or later, they find a path of unload that takes them to a herd of steppe bison, which brings the story return to the start. As he falls, Keda tries to maintain onto a tough cliff aspect, however he slips and lands on an addition ledge, where he breaks a leg and falls subconscious. Desperate to shock his son, Tao attempts to climb down, but his fellow hunters prevent him, stating it's miles too late. At the same time as the guys deliver the sleds to carry the bison on, Tao remains by way of the edge of the cliff, crying in denial. Now that their hunt has been divided similarly, Zai's party leaves on their very own to return to their home, so Tao's institution has one closing night time of camping earlier than convincing their chief is time to transport on. The subsequent morning, Tao builds any other cairn at the same time as tears of grief maintain to fall. Many hours after the party is long past, a vulture lands on Keda and attempts to feed on him. This makes him awaken, and after pushing the hen off him by means of wringing its neck, he realizes the situation he is in. Dragging his damaged leg at the back of him, Keda tries to climb down, however there are not enough rough edges for him to keep on, and finally ends up hanging in there for a long, excruciating second. Quickly after, a storm arrives and starts flooding the ground below him, so Keda involves phrases with what he has to do and shall we go of his grip, landing within the water and falling subconscious once more. Whilst he wakes up the next morning, it has stopped raining and the flooding is gone. After drinking water from a poodle and splinting his injured foot, Keda slowly makes his way return to the top of the cliff, in which he reveals the memorial his father left for him. But Keda kicks it out in frustration when he realizes he has been left alone and must discover his way home on his own. Keda begins touring by himself. He feeds himself bugs, fills his canteen in any poodle he can discover, and climbs trees to sleep thoroughly at nighttime away from predators. When a of wolves reveals him in the middle of the day, Keda runs to a tree again, stabbing one of the wolves when it grabs his leg before he subsequently climbs to protection. He stays on top of the tree until the wolves get uninterested and ready and all of them leave except for the one Keda injured. He prepares a spear to finish it off, however he cannot bring himself to do it, so he makes a decision to ignore it alternatively. Except Keda can't do that either, the wolf's painful whining is an excessive amount to hear. Keda makes a decision to assist and, after tying up its snout now not to get bitten, he alternatives up the wolf and contains it to the lake with the intention to ease its wound. Unfortunately they cannot relaxation there for long due to the fact there are hyenas nearby, so Keda carries the wolf again until they find refuge in a cave wherein they could sleep accurately. The next morning, Keda reveals a mortar close to a group of bones and makes use of it to create a plant salve that he applies on his foot even as the wolf manages to free his snout. Seeing as the animal is behaving, Keda comes to a decision to percentage his water with it, which the wolf finally accepts after masses of growling. Keda goes as some distance as cleansing the wound with the fur his mom gave him and sharing the worms he unearths with the wolf as nicely. However, worms are not sufficient to keep themselves fed, so Keda eventually gets brave sufficient to make his first hunt. He kills a rabbit with a rock and even manages to start a fire at closing to cook it. The wolf tries to take the rabbit from him, but Keda quick pushes him away, remembering the lessons about management his father has taught him. He establishes dominance by way of always eating first and feeding the wolf after he is done, irrespective of how tons he shares with it, although the wolf still will not allow him to touch it. After placing together sufficient substances and suffering with the wolf to get his fur back, Keda leaves the cave and begins strolling his manor again, feeling pissed off due to the fact the wolf will not stop following him no matter how many instances he tells it to go away. Subsequently, Keda gives up and accepts the wolf as his new journey accomplice, even schooling it to return over whilst he whistles. Their first attempts at looking collectively are a whole bust, but after some attempts, they manage to find a manner to sink their attacks and get their prey without an excessive amount of attempt. At night, Keda double examines they are going inside the right route with the aid of the usage of a constellation tattoo on his hand, and the wolf starts sound asleep next to him, even permitting him to touch it now that he has won his accept as true with. After an afternoon spent inside the lake bathing and fishing, Keda makes a decision to name the wolf Alpha. Their ride is taking. See you later that wintry weather finally catches up with them and snow starts to fall. One nighttime while they are consuming by way of the bonfire, they're approached with the aid of a percent of wolves that turns out to be Alpha's family. Knowing what is like to overlook your family, Keda tells Alpha to go together with them, so now he is left to preserve touring by myself. As time passes, snowstorms end up more commonplace, so Keda is having difficulty making plenty development every day, specifically while he has a devastating dream of Tao arriving domestic and giving Ro the horrific news. After some days of on foot through but another hurricane, he comes across Alpha and its percent. However, when he runs in the direction of them, the ice breaks under his toes and he falls into the freezing water. As his mom's fur and maximum of his device go with the flow away, Keda hits the ice along with his knife and manages to interrupt sufficient to permit Alpha to drag him out. The two of them start traveling together again, and later that night, Keda sleeps hugging Alpha to regain some warmth in his freezing body. After advancing a few greater miles, they locate a trail of tracks that they observe to a hut, but sadly, the owner has frozen to demise. There is no food to be found, but Keda does seize a bow and arrow to hunt, ignoring Alpha's fear while he begins to cough up blood. Some day later, the duo unearths itself among a rock and a hard location. There are hyenas following them but additionally a totally dangerous hurricane in advance of them, in order that they run until they discover a cave to hide in. Sadly, the place isn't empty. There's a cave lion that doesn't hesitate to attack them. Alpha fights it fiercely whilst Keda places the arrow on his bow, concentrating to hit the proper target. He manages to kill the lion and keep Alpha, who nonetheless comes out closely wounded from the combat. Once they pass back to very slowly traveling in the center of the snowfall, they locate the sculpture that marks the sacred route, so Keda knows they must be near. His wish receives more potent while the northern lighting appear above them one night time, a signal that his ancestors need to be guiding them. But Alpha is just too weak to keep going, and at some point he subsequently collapses. Now not wanting to leave his buddy at the back of, Keda starts to hold the wolf in his palms, ignoring the reality he is likewise weak and keeps to cough up blood. The situations are so harsh that Keda sooner or later collapses as well. But then, he unearths encouragement in a reminiscence that comes to him in a dream. It's Miles, the conversation he overheard his parents having the night before they left. To help Ro now not to fear, Tao had informed her Keda is stronger than even himself knows. With newly won electricity won from his father's perception in him, Keda wakes up and alternatives up Alpha again, wearing it through the storm until they in the end make it lower back to his tribe. Nobody can consider what they're seeing, and Tao cries as he tells his son how proud he is earlier than taking him and the wolf right into a tent to be sorted. After Keda is patched up and fed, the shaman examines Alpha, speedy realizing what its trouble is. Alpha is virtually a woman, and he or she is giving start. All the dogs are born accurately and healthy, and the tribe welcomes them as a part of the own family. Years later, as soon as the puppies have end up proper person wolves, they are assigned to hunters as companions and are taken to the following great hunt.